You ever wonder how some rappers can survive federal wiretaps, gang affiliations, and full-blown conspiracy charges and still walk red carpets with billionaires? Yeah, same. So let me ask you this. How was Jim Jones, yes, Mr. We Fly High, caught on a wiretap plotting gang violence but never got charged? And how does Jay-Z, who once called him a nobody, end up signing him to Roc Nation? Even messier, Jay's own CEO is a confirmed DEA informant. Something's not adding up. And today, we're breaking it all the way down. Because this isn't just music beef. This is power, politics, and paperwork. So grab your tea, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any more news from your favorite artists. This is the story of how Jim Jones might just be hip-hop's most protected snitch, and why Jay-Z might be playing both sides. All right, let's rewind to one of the wildest courtroom sagas in hip-hop history, the Tekashi 6ix9ine federal case. The moment the rainbow-haired troll flipped the entire rap game on its head. After trolling his way into gang affiliations and viral fame, Tekashi was slapped with serious racketeering and weapons charges. Facing decades behind bars, he did what most didn't expect. He took the stand and started naming names like he was reading from a yearbook. But here's the twist. One name Tekashi never mentioned on the stand, but who still showed up in court, was Jim Jones. Now, Jim wasn't indicted, and he wasn't on the list of official defendants. But during trial proceedings, prosecutors played a federal wiretap between 9 Trey leader Jamel Mel Murda Jones and someone labeled in the court docs as Individual 1. According to multiple reporters present, that voice was allegedly Jim Jones. In that recorded call, played in open court, the man believed to be Jim can be heard dropping the now notorious line, "He's gotta get violated." And Mel Murda, a confirmed 9 Trey member, casually responds, "Yeah, super violated, super duper."
That's cool, but now you gotta get violated.
Yeah, super violated. Super duper, so.
Let's be clear, this wasn't internet gossip. That wiretap was presented in federal court in front of a jury. It's not speculation. And to top it off, Tekashi himself later confirmed under oath that Jim Jones was a 9 Trey member.
Yes, Jim Jones is a member of 9 Trey. He's a retired rapper.
So let's break this down. Jim allegedly appears on a wiretap talking gang retaliation against a federal witness. The call involves high-level 9 Trey leadership. The feds play it in court. And yet, Jim walks away untouched. No arrest, no indictment, no press release, nothing. Naturally, eyebrows went up. Why was Jim the only big name linked to 9 Trey who didn't catch a single charge? That's when people started pointing to that Individual 1 title in the court files and whispering, "That's Jim," and someone's protecting him. So is Jim Jones the real-life Teflon Don of hip-hop? Or is there more to this story that never made it to the headlines? Either way, that wiretap cracked open a whole new chapter. And trust me, this is only the beginning. The snitch allegations.
Jim Jones, do you really believe he's a snitch?
Well,
Or do you believe, are you just trolling him?
no, I'm not sure, because you got to remember, his ratting goes back to 6ix9ine. He was the first one exposed it, and it messed me up because he come to Clubhouse that I asked him to, and the New Yorkers was coming at him. And this dude, 6ix9ine, had memorized all the paperwork. So every time they came at him about something, he'd be like, "No, you're wrong. This person did this person," and he put up a link. I mean, Jim Jones had just did a feature for my Hispanic group, Coyote, maybe a week prior. That was my boy. Like, you know.
Jim was.
Yeah, he come into town, hit me, whack up over here.
So y'all were cool.
Tight.
All right, now things get even juicier. Word on the street and in Clubhouse is that Wack 100 and Tekashi 6ix9ine have been pouring fuel on the fire, accusing Jim Jones of being a federal informant. Their main angle? If Jim's caught on tape planning violence, why is he the only one who never got charged? It's a question that's been circling the rap world. Wack 100 has publicly echoed this sentiment multiple times. In a heated Clubhouse rant, he asked, "Do you really believe he's a snitch?" Before adding that he do believe Jim Jones is a snitch. He doubled down, pointing to how everyone on those 9 Trey wiretaps got indicted, except for Jimmy. And Tekashi joined in the trash talk, stirring the hype by reposting Wack's claims on Instagram and calling Jim a Fed informant, keeping the rumors alive in comments and graphics. Their message was clear. Why is Jim still free? What's his secret? But wait, there's more. Enter Jaw, a former Dipset affiliate, who escalated the speculation. claiming that Jim set up Mel Murda, calling him Detective Jones. Now that is some dramatic dirt, if accurate. Still, it's worth noting, Wax and Tekashi's claims aren't backed by court filings or wiretap evidence, just their personal takes shared on Clubhouse, Instagram, and interviews. But in hip-hop, perception is everything, and they've got a loyal listener base ready to believe anything shady. That being said, it's important to highlight that the feds have never confirmed Jim as an informant, and Jim has never officially announced any cooperation with authorities. No deal, no plea, no courtroom confession. Still, the power of these voices, Whack 100's industry weight, Tekashi's brash social media, and even Jaja's dramatic allegations, has kept the speculation alive. And what started as one wiretap has spiraled into a full-blown conspiracy theory that refuses to die. Whack 100 and Tekashi are basically out here screaming. He's the only one caught on tape who never got touched. That's a red flag if I've ever seen one. And then Jaja, just casually tossing gasoline on the fire, claims Jim snitched on his own crew. Like not just a snitch, a setup artist. That's wild. That's enough drama to sustain an entire video series, honestly. So the real question isn't just, is Jim Jones a snitch? It's, how deep do these rumors go? And how much truth is actually buried in the mess? Because no matter what you believe, one thing's undeniable. This rumor storm is keeping Jim's name on everyone's lips, whether he likes it or not. Jay-Z's shade and strategic silence. So now the question becomes, if Jim Jones is really this deep in the mix, why did Jay-Z get involved? Especially after throwing major shade at him. Let's not forget that Jay and Jim go way back, and not in a friendly way. This beef is vintage, dating back to the early 2000s when Dame Dash brought Cameron and Jim Jones into Rockefeller. Tension popped off fast when Cam claimed he was promised a VP title, and Jay never backed it. In fact, Jim and Cam blocked Jay from releasing a remix of Oh Boy, one of their biggest hits. Cam even removed Jay's verse. That move, it basically declared war. From there, the sneak disses were flying. Jim clowned Jay on Hot 97, called him out for being too corporate, too soft, too far removed from the streets. Jay finally clapped back in 2006 with Brooklyn High, using the same beat from Jim's We Fly High. Yeah, he flipped the man's own anthem into a diss track. Jim answered with the beef mix, mocking Jay for being old and out of touch. And then it got real. In 2008, Jim was arrested for assaulting Jay-Z's longtime A&R, Lenny Santiago, inside a Louis Vuitton store. He pled guilty to a misdemeanor, but the bad blood was undeniable. Fast forward to 2017, and plot twist, Jim signs a deal with Roc Nation. After over a decade of public beef, he joins Jay's label. Posts bottles of Douce and Ace of Spades, flashes a Roc Nation letterhead, and suddenly starts praising Jay in interviews. It was a complete 180 turn. But here's the part people sleep on. Jay never embraced Jim publicly. There were no joint photos, no tracks, no Roc Nation brunch selfies. Jay stayed silent. He let the deal happen, but kept his distance. And then came that leaked audio clip of Jay saying, "Who is Jim Jones? He's not in anyone's top 10, maybe not even his own family."
Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's like no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family.
That didn't sound like someone who had squashed beef. That sounded like someone playing chess. So what was the move? Was Jay trying to bury the beef or bury the story? Some believe Jay brought Jim into Roc Nation to protect the brand, especially once Jim's name started swirling in federal courtrooms. Because let's be real, Jay's not new to this. He's been known to absorb his enemies, silence his critics, and clean house without ever making a public statement. Fat Joe, The Lox, Meek Mill, all former rivals, now aligned under Roc Nation. Maybe signing Jim wasn't about music. Maybe it was about control. Because what better way to handle a loose end than to keep it under contract? Coming up next, we look at Roc Nation's own hidden secret, Desiree Perez, Jay's right-hand woman, CEO of Roc Nation, and, oh yeah, a former DEA informant. The hypocrisy? It's wild. Stick around because things are about to get federal.
Hip hop, of course, you know, is a competitive sport, but on the other end of it, it's like certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's not He's like, no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family. Oh my God. I was saying last night, it's like the 8th guy on the bench just screaming at Jordan, like, you a bum. Like, you want to be like the 9th guy on the bench. I'm not even worried about you.
Before we get to the champagne bottles and Roc Nation contracts, let's rewind to the pettiest era in hip-hop drama. We're talking early 2000s, the golden age of subliminals, ego clashes, and nobody apologizing for anything. This is where it all really started, between Jay-Z and Jim Jones. And trust me, it was never love. So here's the backstory. Cameron and Jim Jones came into Rockefeller through Dame Dash, not Jay-Z. That detail, crucial. Because Dame was bringing in Harlem energy, Dipset, and Jay, who was already the face of the label, didn't exactly roll out the welcome mat. Especially not when Cam allegedly said he was promised a VP position at Rockefeller, something Jay never publicly confirmed. You can imagine how that went over. From there, things got icy, real quick. Then came the infamous Oh Boy remix drama. Jay laid a verse for the remix of Dipset's mega hit Oh Boy, but Cam wasn't feeling it, mainly because Jay was using their record to send shots at Nas, who Jay was in the middle of beefing with. Cam removed Jay's verse entirely, straight up deleted it. That was the first real middle finger, and the line was drawn. Jim Jones, always ready to ride for his people, started coming for Jay hard. In radio interviews, on mixtapes, he painted Jay as too soft, too corporate, too far removed from the streets they came from. He said Jay was out here in button-ups while Dipset was still in bulletproofs. And Jay, he played it cool, at first. But in 2006, Jay clapped back, in the most Jay-Z way possible. He took Jim's own hit record, We Fly High, and flipped it into a diss track called Brooklyn High. He didn't scream, he didn't tweet. He just walked into the booth and violated with bars. That was cold. Jim wasn't gonna let that slide. He fired back with We Fly High beef mix, where he called Jay an old head and sent a warning. Better slow down before your old ass gets hurt. The gloves were off. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about ego, legacy, and who really ran New York. And just when you thought it couldn't get more real, 2008 happened. Jim was caught on a Louis Vuitton store surveillance camera assaulting Jay-Z's A&R, Lenny Santiago, over a private disagreement that spilled into public view. That wasn't rap beef anymore. That was street tension wrapped in designer shopping bags. Jim was arrested, pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault, and served community service. So yeah, this wasn't a little rap spat. This was deep. It was personal. And for years, it looked like there'd never be a truce. But if you've learned anything about Jay-Z, it's that he plays the long game.
The only person that gets played on any place in this earth, and they're gonna know it in English. If you're not putting Drake in the top 2 of all time, like what are we gonna do? We're gonna keep putting shade on his name?
I mean, I agree.
He has broke every single statistic, period. You heard? Like, right. Seriously, like, okay, Jay-Z has done some for hip-hop that will never, ever be duplicated. He is whole.
Fast forward to 2017. Everyone's moved on, right? Wrong. Out of nowhere, the hip-hop world gets hit with a twist no one saw coming. Jim Jones signs with Roc Nation. Yes, you heard that right. After over a decade of beef, disses, lawsuits, and actual hands being thrown, Jim does a complete 180 and inks a deal with the same man he once called soft. The internet, shocked. Fans, confused. And Jay, silent. Jim didn't just sign quietly either. He made a whole celebration out of it, posted a photo of bottles of Douce and Ace of Spades, both Jay-owned brands, lined up next to a Roc Nation letterhead. It looked more like a peace treaty signing than a business move. The caption? Something like, "It's time to make history." He even attended the Roc Nation brunch, the same elite, invite-only event he used to mock from the outside. Now he's posing with top execs, smiling for the cameras, and singing Jay's praises in interviews.
Other former rival will be relying on Ho's team to steer his career, as Dipset's Jim Jones is allegedly heading over to Roc Nation.
Calling him a brilliant businessman. Wild, right? But let's not forget, Jay never publicly embraced Jim. No shout-outs, no welcome tweet, no celebratory photo op. Just silence. He let the deal happen, but kept his arms crossed. That silence, it spoke volumes. And of course, the streets had theories. Some say Jay did it to bury the beef and look like the bigger man, but others? They think Jay was playing chess, that signing Jim wasn't about unity. It was about control. Because think about it, Jim's name had just started popping up in federal courtrooms. He was on a wiretap. He was around people facing RICO charges. So maybe signing him wasn't about business. It was about managing risk. Keep him close and you manage the story. You keep the headlines quiet. And Jay's done it before. Fat Joe, The Lox, Meek Mill, all former rivals. all now under the Roc Nation umbrella. It's not emotional, it's strategic. Jay doesn't throw punches, he writes checks. And if the heat's on you, he might just cool it down with a contract. Not to empower you, but to make sure you're not a problem. Because in this game, it's not about pride, it's about positioning. And Jay, he's been buying the board for years.
It leads me right into Roc Nation. Jay, I can't put into words how much you mean to me, Jay. The nurturing and guidance, your invaluable instincts and knowledge and patience. You've taught me to trust myself to do what's right, not what's easiest. Juan, my husband and partner, you compel my strength, and your complete faith in me at every turn is unwavering. You're always praising me, especially to others. Sometimes I'm embarrassed because people meet me and they expect to see a superhero.
By now, we've talked about wiretaps, Jay-Z's silent chess moves, and Jim Jones walking through federal crossfire untouched. But if you thought that was suspicious, let me introduce you to the most protected figure in the Roc Nation circle, Desiree Perez. She's not just part of the team, she runs it. That's right, Desiree Perez is the CEO of Roc Nation, Jay-Z's entertainment empire. You've probably seen her around, smiling next to Jay at Super Bowls, hosting brunches with Beyonce, or popping up in headlines for her work with Meek Mill on prison reform. But what you may not know is Desiree Perez is a confirmed federal informant. And I'm not saying that in the allegedly sense. I mean legally documented, DEA-confirmed, government-pardoned informant. This isn't a rumor, this is public record. Let's take it back. In 1994, Desiree, then using her maiden name, Desiree Reynoso, was arrested in Florida. The charge? Possession and trafficking of 35 kilos of cocaine. And no, we're not talking about a dime bag situation. We're talking multiple keys, cartel-level trafficking, and enough time to put someone away for decades. But instead of serving time, Desiree did what many in the streets would never admit to. She cooperated with the federal government. According to documented DEA records and multiple sources, she wore a wire, helped build cases against bigger players in the drug game, and essentially became a cooperating witness for the feds. This was her way out, and it worked. She avoided a long prison sentence, and for years this part of her past stayed low-key. That is, until her name surfaced again on an official White House pardon list. Yep, in January 2021, President Donald Trump, on his final day in office, granted Desiree a full presidential pardon. Alongside other celebs like Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, Desiree Perez's record was wiped clean. Now, why is this important? Because Jay-Z has built his entire brand on authenticity, loyalty, and keeping it real. He's made music and millions off the idea that snitching is betrayal and real ones don't cooperate with the system. And yet, his top executive is someone who not only cooperated but did so at a high level. What makes it even more ironic is that Desiree Perez is now one of the leading voices behind Roc Nation's social justice and prison reform projects. She's helped Meek Mill, pushed bail reform, and worked closely with Van Jones and the Reform Alliance. Now, on the surface, that sounds noble, but underneath, it's complicated. Let's talk optics. There's this now famous clip of Jay-Z at the Super Bowl. He's sitting courtside. He says, "We've moved past kneeling." And who's sitting right behind him? Desiree Perez, right there, in the camera shot. The same woman who once worked with the DEA to put people in prison, now helping lead a movement to get people out of prison. The irony is loud. And here's what people are really asking. If Jay is so anti-snitch, how is Desiree running his empire? Why is she embraced, protected, and elevated while people like Jim Jones are rumored to be informants and get endlessly dragged for it? The answer, honestly, is simple but shady. Desiree Perez is useful. She brings access. She gets deals done. She helped Jay go from rapper to business mogul. She keeps Roc Nation clean on paper, powerful in politics, and connected in the right rooms. And if your snitching leads to influence, not shame, well, apparently it gets forgiven. And the crazy part? Nobody talks about this. There's no cancel culture wave, no interviews grilling her, no industry backlash, just a neat, quiet pardon and a strategic PR pivot. Meanwhile, Jim Jones, whose name popped up in a wiretap but was never charged, never confirmed as an informant, is still getting labeled Federal Jones on blogs, still having to defend his street credibility, still being side-eyed for something we can't even prove. So let's ask the real question. Is it snitching that people hate, or just snitching without the right PR team? Because if Desiree Perez can go from DEA witness to Roc Nation queenpin, it's not about loyalty, it's about power, control, narrative. Jay doesn't seem to have a problem with informants. He just prefers the ones he hires.
There's a woman named Desiree Perez, right? So she called me into the office. I had already made peace with Jay-Z.
Right.
He was already on the All the Way Up remix. And she sat me down. And so this is OG Juan's wife. She sat me down and said, yo, you know, I think you should be a Roc Nation artist and we should manage you, you know? And to them, you know, in this game of chess, Fat Joe was a real big piece to grab on they team.
Board.
So she said, I know you doing a deal right now. And the deal was for $1 million. I thought I negotiated a great deal. I was negotiating a deal with somebody. Let's just say $1 million for this glass of water.
All right, now that we've laid it all out, the federal wiretaps, the shady silence from Jay-Z, and the DEA paperwork with Desiree Perez's name on it, there's one question that has to be asked. If Desiree gets a pass, then why not Jim? Let's recap real quick. Desiree Perez was arrested in 1994 for being connected to a major drug trafficking operation. She cooperated with the DEA, wore a wire, and assisted in the prosecution of other traffickers. Her cooperation is not a theory, it's not alleged, it's documented, confirmed, and listed on a U.S. Department of Justice pardon record signed by President Donald Trump in 2021. Meanwhile, Jim Jones was never charged, never testified, never confirmed by any agency as an informant. The only link is a wiretap played during the 6ix9ine trial where a voice, allegedly his, is heard saying Tekashi should be violated. That's it. No paperwork, no plea deal, no charges filed. So how does one get branded a snitch while the other becomes the CEO of a billion-dollar empire? It's not about justice. It's not about street code. It's about optics and power. Let's be real. Desiree was useful. Her legal work, connections, and behind-the-scenes handling of major artists and campaigns turned her into one of the most powerful executives in music. She helped Jay-Z turn Roc Nation from a management firm into a cultural machine that touches sports, politics, music, fashion, and more. And Jim? He's a Harlem rapper with Dipset roots and a reputation for being outspoken, emotional, and unpredictable. He doesn't play the political game. He doesn't sit quietly in the back of the boardroom. He's not a fixer. He's not an executive, and he doesn't have that billionaire polish. That's why this all starts to feel less like justice and more like a double standard wrapped in a business suit. You ever notice how certain people can make mistakes, but if they have the right influence, they get turned into redemption stories? Meanwhile, others get dragged for things we can't even verify. Desiree had a confirmed federal case and still ended up on press releases about social justice reform. Jim has a voice clip that never resulted in charges, and yet, years later, people still call him a snitch. So maybe this isn't about morality at all. Maybe this is about who's controlling the narrative. Because let's face it, Jay-Z is smart. He's strategic. He didn't become a billionaire by being careless with his image. If he really believed snitches were the worst thing in the world, Desiree Perez wouldn't be the face of Roc Nation's executive boardroom. He wouldn't have let her run point on their criminal justice reform campaigns. And he definitely wouldn't have sat next to her at the Super Bowl, knowing full well that her past was public knowledge. So it begs the question, was Jim just not useful enough to protect? Was the silence around Jim's alleged wiretap moment a calculated decision? A test? Maybe Jay signed him to Roc Nation in 2017 not to build him up, but to keep him close, quiet, and out of the headlines. If he was becoming a liability, signing him meant Jay could control the noise and distance himself when needed. Meanwhile, Desiree became a valuable asset, one worth defending, worth promoting, and even worth granting the public redemption arc through a presidential pardon. Let's not act like the music industry follows any real moral code. It follows influence. It follows usefulness. It follows who can help expand the brand and protect the empire. Jim didn't have that. Desiree did. And that's the real difference. So when we talk about snitching, about loyalty, about the so-called code, we have to realize it's all selective. It's a game of leverage, not principles. Because the truth is, in this industry, snitching isn't the issue. Visibility is. And if you're powerful enough to rewrite your own story, they'll hand you a pen and let you sign the checks. Desiree Perez rewrote hers with a pardon and a power suit. Jim Jones, he's still fighting for a voice in the room, while being dragged by the very people who excuse the right kind of cooperation. So maybe it was never about loyalty. Maybe it was never about snitching. Maybe it's just about who gets to pull the strings. Because in hip hop, it's never just about who snitched. It's about who got away with it. If you're still watching with us, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so we can go down this rabbit hole together, because we are just getting started. Leave down your thoughts in the comment section and we'll see you in the next one.